Well, my editing skills are crap. But can the same be said for Guardians of the Galaxy? Stick around and find out. Movie review, movie. That's kind of. Try a little higher. Movie review. No, I was going for something a little bit lower. Movie review. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I think that's a better part. I think you'll be less turned off by that sound than the other sounds. Movie review. Movie review. Movie review. Movie review. I don't know. I'm running out of ideas, people. Let's see if Guardians is. Deep in distant space, a strange assortment of escaped prisoners are on the run. The unusual ensemble includes a strong, brutish warrior who has trouble understanding Earth metaphors, an odd humanoid plant creature with surprising powers that seem to come and go as the plot demands, a small, selfish genius who at first glance may seem cute but is actually a force to be reckoned with, a butt-kicking alien girl with an unusual skin color, and a guy next door human who spouts pop culture references while constantly surviving by the skin of his teeth. Yes, Farscape is still my favorite TV show ever made, and aside from the superficial parallels that I just listed, Guardians of the Galaxy has far less in common with Farscape than it possibly should have. So let's talk about the story of Guardians of the Galaxy. The story is beyond basic. Very basic. So basic that it fades and blends into the CGI. The pacing keeps things going, though, which is nice. This movie is not about the story. It's about situations, little predicaments that the ensemble cast has to get themselves out of. It's about action, and it's about jokes, humor. That's what this experience is. It's not about a story that's going to keep you curious and riveted and stuff like that. It's not even as much as I would like it to be, and as much as I think it came close to being. It's not really about the characters either. I mean, usually when you have an ensemble, show or movie or story like this, it can be a lot more about these characters, who they are, and watching them bounce off of each other. And normally I love that kind of thing. And when they had moments like that in here, I did enjoy them. But the characters were all very much caricatures more than characters, just kind of like the same kind of, well, I mean, I kind of listed off, the parallels they have with Farscape, and, the first season of Farscape, that's all you're getting is these caricatures, these kind of common tropes of sci-fi, these kind of like, this guy's the warrior, this guy's the brainy guy, this guy's this, or whatever, and, in Farscape, during and then especially after the first season, you're seeing more and more layers beyond that, and by the end of the show, they're far from those, simple two-dimensional stereotypes that they started out as. This movie, the characters never quite get beyond that. They show maybe a couple of layers, a couple of possibilities, a couple of unexpected moments, like, oh, this guy has a softer side or something like that. But that's it, And I wish that they would have made time to go further into that. Part of that is probably because my sense of humor, or maybe I should say, the things that make me laugh, it's a very specific brand of humor. So for a lot of people, the action and the visual effects and the jokes are going to be plenty to give them an enjoyable experience with this. Most of the people that I was sitting with in the theater seemed to be laughing at the jokes, when they came up, and there were about, maybe I could probably count on one hand the number of jokes throughout the entire movie that got some kind of a audible reaction out of me. But none of them just had me like laughing hysterically, but there was chuckling was pretty pervasive, and pretty frequent throughout the theater. So I think most people will like the humor in this movie. Not me. It didn't resonate with me. But unless you found in previous reviews that you've seen or heard of mine that your sense of humor seems to be kind of along the same lines as mine, or you laugh at the same things I do, then just disregard my take on the humor, even though it does significantly affect my score, because they spent a lot of time on the humor and as a result had to push aside some other things I would have like to have seen more of. So let's talk about the characters a little bit. We've got Peter Quill, Star-Lord, played by Chris Pratt, and he's really enjoyable as this character. He's kind of like this guy who's trying to make a name for himself, which you probably picked up from the trailers. He wants to have this reputation as this, outlaw, intergalactic outlaw, and so he's named himself Star-Lord, and nobody seems to really recognize that name or look at him in awe and wonder because of his reputation or whatever, so he doesn't have the reputation that he would really like to have. And he's definitely capable. He's not like a fish out of water like John Crichton in Farscape, but he's also always surviving by the skin of his teeth, barely getting by, and he's certainly, of the group, probably might maybe be the least capable. I'm not sure. That's up for grabs. But he seems the most unsure of himself, despite wanting to really be sure of himself, despite really wanting to be that hero character. And he's got pop culture references, but they're a little bit limited because they're limited to the 80s. He was basically on the night that his mother died, and that happens like in the first 3 minutes, so that's just a very minor spoiler, not really a spoiler. He is abducted, and basically we're assumed to grow up, that he grows up in space. We flash forward 26 years later after that, so we don't really know about his adult, like his growing life, But anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that, but he does well with the character. It's not like this, heavy Oscar. There's nothing going on here that's going to be heavy or Oscar winning, so he does just fine. Zoe Saldana plays Gamora. Not a lot going on with that character. Certainly, it's not something that's stretching her as an actress, but she does the female action hero very well and carries that into this movie very well. Dave Bautista, which I feel like he's probably a celebrity from like the wrestling world or some kind of athletic bodybuilding type of sport, because I don't get the impression that he's an actor. He's like he probably comes from another world and he's come into acting for roles like this. He plays Drax, the big buff guy, and he actually did better than I expected him to do, because I saw this guy and I was like, I think he's like a wrestler or UFC fighter, or I don't know what he is, but I don't think he was an actor first, so I wasn't expecting much from him, and he actually did very well with the material he was given. It suited his character and his style of delivery, so he did a fine job there. Every once in a while there were a few things that he would mutter that I couldn't quite understand, but other folks in the theater seemed to understand him just fine, so maybe my hearing's going. Vin Diesel does the voice of the CGI animated character Groot, which is this walking plant kind of guy, and he's limited to 3 words in his vocabulary. I am Groot. That's all he can say. And he uses those 3 words, I am Groot, to express every possible thing that he could express. And so it's all about listening to his tone and using his tone as kind of like a way to determine how he's commenting on the situation at hand, And I thought that's a neat concept for a character. I wish that the writers and the animators and the director, all the people that were involved in creating that character, and of course Vin Diesel as well, would have given more varied interpretations, more varied and creative uses of that phrase to have him be commenting on different situations. I think that his, this is going to sound really strange, I think that his dialogue could have been much more creative and varied than it was, despite the fact that he was limited to the words I am Groot. But still an interesting character. The problem with Groot is that, like Zan from Farscape, he's got these powers that they just kind of pop up when the situation demands it. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, he'll probably have some other power that can get him out of this next fix, And that's really, a problem with the movie as a whole, is that you don't have a clear sense of the limitations of the characters. They don't seem to find anything too difficult. I guess they're putting forth effort. They're going, but that's kind of like movie effort. I mean, like, did I really feel like they're in danger? Do I really feel like they're hurting? Do I really feel like they're in trouble? No. Never did throughout the whole movie. Even in moments where, if you're looking at it from a story standpoint, I'm like, whoa, I should definitely feel like there's major danger here, I still didn't. I was like, they're going to be fine. Let's just see what blows up next and what cool CG happens. Bradley Cooper does the voice of Rocket. I was prepared, when I first saw the promo images for this movie, I was prepared to hate Rocket. Rocket is this little kind of intelligent raccoon. I freaking hate anthropomorphic animals. I hate them. It's the freaking Disneyfication defecation on all of our pop culture to have these talking animals everywhere. In Green Lantern, you've got Chip and Gnort, the squirrel and the dog Green Lantern. And for whatever freaking reason, fans want more of those characters. When they heard there was going to be a Green Lantern movie, this is years ago, of course, they're like, oh, will there be Chip? Will there be Gnort? And I'm like, freaking shut up. Stupid. Stupid. I hate talking animals. So I was prepared to hate Rocket, and I didn't. And I think one of the things that's different here is that, in the case of Chip and Gnort, if I remember correctly, both of them they're aliens from alien races that just happen to look like talking squirrels and just happen to look like talking dogs. Stupid. Stupid. And that's not the case with Rocket. I won't spoil kind of like his origins and stuff, but they come up, and I think they're interesting, and he's very unique, and I think they had fun with this concept. If I remember correctly, I'm not a Marvel fan, and I certainly have almost no knowledge of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think they were created, I want to say, in like the 80s, 60s through 80s, probably not the 60s, that's when Marvel got started, but like 70s, 80s, I think is when they came around. That's when we had things like, lots of talking animals and stuff showing up in comics. And, I think that they kind of recognized, okay, this is a silly, stupid, comic booky idea. Let's just kind of acknowledge that. Let's have people make fun of him for being this talking squirrel. Let's play that up instead of just trying to treat it as normal and cool, because it's not normal and cool. It's stupid, but they made it cool in the way that they handled his character. I really enjoyed the character of Rocket. Speaking of the 80s, the visual design of this movie, particularly the costumes, the makeups, it was very evocative to me of the 1980s era of comic books. When you would see aliens, I want to say 80s and 90s. I noticed this in DC as well. Less exposure to Marvel, but it felt very much like the kinds of alien races I would see in DC comics, where like someone like a blue alien, he's a blue alien. So he's like, the colors blue and like pinkish, reddish pinkish, almost like a hot pink, I want to say, colored aliens, and these really solid green aliens, very much that, it makes sense in a comic book to use these strong, pronounced colors. It's like he's all blue, he's all green, he's all pink, but in movies, it felt weird in this movie. So I felt like in many ways it was betraying its comic book origins, not just in the alien colors, but just in the color palette in general. It was more like bright and 80s somehow. It was weird. It was weird, and that was a bit of a turnoff to me personally. I was just like, it made the whole thing. On top of the humor and just kind of the fluff action and stuff, it added another layer of kind of lightness to it. And what I wanted was some more intensity in this movie, some more reason to be afraid, to be on the edge of my seat, wondering what's going to happen next. Will they survive? No, they're going to be just fine because the color palette's all bright and everybody's making jokes. So anyway, the villains in this movie were so typical and so uninteresting. They're so forgettable. I mean, no one's going to remember these villains and say, oh man, that was one of the classic villains of the ages. I mean, this movie as a whole is not going to be really memorable. It's going to be remembered like, oh yeah, that was one of those Marvel movies, wasn't it? It's not going to be a standout. It's not going to be an Avengers. It's not going to be any one of the 3 Iron Man movies. It's not going to be Captain America. It's going to be, oh yeah, it was one of those. Oh yeah, that was one of those. I forgot that was a Marvel movie because they were in space. Oh yeah, or whatever. This is not changing the landscape of filmmaking. It's not changing the landscape of the Marvel movie franchise. It's just kind of, there it is. Hey, that was cool, and then it's done. The stunts, the visuals, the choreography, it was fun. It was, I don't know, fun. For me, fun, I need some intensity. So when I say fun, it wasn't really fun for me. The fight choreography was good, but it was uncreative. There was lots of cool CG action and space explosions. This movie was exemplary eye candy if that's what you want. If that's what you're buying your ticket for, boom, go see it. You're going to love it, To me, it's kind of like watching somebody else play a video game. That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, I'm seeing some pretty cool action here, some pretty cool moves and stuff like that, but I'm not invested in it, If there was more attention given to character, to drama, to character motivations, if I felt like characters, might be in trouble or might be exerting themselves, that would help me invest. The other alternative would be for this to be a video game that I'm playing myself, because then I'm controlling their actions. I'm definitely invested when I'm playing a video game, and lots of the cool visuals and stylistic things going on, the visual ideas and stuff, it reminded me of like, oh man, yeah, I can't wait to go home and play some cool video games, some cool modern video games, but watching it on the screen and not participating and not feeling as a result of what they're doing dramatically, it felt like watching your buddy play a video game. You're like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm not at all invested. So anyway, moving on to relevance. This movie isn't saying anything. It's not trying to say anything. I'd be shocked if anybody in the filmmaking process thought they were saying something with this movie. If I tried to scrape something up to stimulate worthwhile thought or conversation, I don't know. Should unrepentant thieves and murderers be cheered for as heroes? That sounds like a really heavy question, and this movie doesn't lend itself to asking that. Does power? Nah, I got nothing. I got nothing. This movie doesn't say anything. Okay, it's rated PG-13 for intense sequences of sci-fi violence and action, and for some language. I give it a quality score of 7.5 out of 10, and a relevance score. I forgot to make that note there. Relevance score of 4.0 out of 10. There you have it, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was going to say something here. What was I going to say? I think I forgot to save my earlier notes. Okay, I don't know. It couldn't have been that important. Anyway, there is a shawarma. There is a bonus scene at the end. I feel like spoiling it for you because it's stupid. It's stupid. It doesn't lead into any other Marvel movies. At least I hope it doesn't. It just resurrects, or brings to the forefront a really obscure and silly, stupid Marvel character. And who many of you probably would be like, oh, that's a Marvel character? Yeah, there is a little bit of setup, what seems like to be set up for a sequel. And, looking online, I saw that lots of people are responding favorably to this. I don't know how well the movie is selling, but I guess they could make a sequel, I certainly don't think they have to. I wouldn't want a sequel. It's like, this is fine. Let's get back to Marvel proper superhero movies, and, this was fine. But anyway, so wait for Redbox on this one. In the meantime, fire up some Farscape, huh? All right, well, please do like, share, and subscribe, and that would be great. Make me feel really good. Also, please leave comments below about what you liked or what you'd like to see, except for better editing. That's not going to happen in this segment. Do have some more segments coming on this channel that will have a little bit of editing in them. For info about... I didn't use any of my signs. Holy crap. Well, half the cast was CGI anyway, so... All right. For info... Boom! About our scoring system, lots of other content and community, visit ChristianGeekCentral.com. I hope you'll come and join us there soon as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.